This is episode number 124, The Pulse Cure by Torkil Faero, How to Defeat Burnout. Welcome everybody to another episode here in Body and Mind Transformation by Custom Body Fitness. This is your health coach, Sandro Torres. And just for you to know, I've been trying to record this like 20 times already, but hopefully I get it right this time. Today, I'm going to present to you an interview by me. I interview Dr. Torkil Faero. He's author of The Pulse Cure, a great book that I really recommend you get. But right here, we're going to be talking about how to defeat burnout. He talks about a lot of stressors, how to detect a stressor, how to use devices to detect stressors, how to take responsibility and control of your health instead of giving it to the doctor, why he decided to change his life, because he's been practicing for 25 years, and he noticed that he actually was practicing bad habits, and one of the reasons his dad died is because of the bad habits his dad was practicing. He noticed that, and he was following the same path, and he decided to change that. He was overweight. He lost a lot of weight. He discovered a lot of things that he shared with us that I would love you to hear, because it's a great interview. Once again, I learned a lot from this doctor, but I'm not going to tell you exactly all that I learned, because I want you to listen to the interview, because you're going to make a lot of conclusions, and you're going to learn how to use a device to help you track your heart rate for burnout, for when you're stressed, and what to do to overcome that burnout and deal with the stress. So without further introduction, let's listen to the conversation. At CBF, we know that for you to change your body, you need to change your mind. Exercise and eating healthy is only part of the plan. We care about our members as we care about our family, because our members become our family. It is not about competition, but support. It is not about being the strongest or the fastest, but about you defeating your negative self. It is about working together and making the task challenging and have fun. By the end, what matters is not how hard the session was, but that you take control of your mind so you can take control of your body. My name is Sandro Torres, and I'm happy you are part of our family. Welcome to Custom Body Fitness. Welcome everybody to another episode here in Body and Mind Transformation by Custom Body Fitness. This is your health coach, Sandro Torres. And today we have a very special guest. His name is Torkil Faero.
That's
Welcome,
right.
my friend.
Thank you, Sandro. Nice to be here.
Before we start with your tips about staying healthy with you, about your book, The Pulse Cure, I would like to know a little bit about your background. Our audience would like to know a little bit about your background. So,
Yeah.
on your biography, you said that you have 25 years of experience as a physician. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've been working as a general practitioner all over Norway, my home country, for 25 years. Been working as a freelance doctor because I've been doing a lot of photography, a lot of traveling on the side. So that is why I've been working on and off as a freelance doctor, actually. And I've been enjoying sitting at the front row of life, seeing what makes people sick, how are the family relations. Because as a general practitioner, you see people from before they are born until after they're dead, so you kind of follow the whole life of people. And that has been such a big interest for me to just be curious and see how does people live their lives, So that was my intention of becoming a doctor. And then by the years, I've been interested in what can keep you healthy. and not only how to cure sick people, because that's what we learned in medical school, to categorize disease, find out what medicine works, what kind of surgery do you need. We didn't learn so much about how to keep you healthy, how to avoid getting sick. And that I've been more and more interested in with the years. So that is what I've written this book about, the Pulse Cure, about how you can use wearables like watches and smart rings and so on to track your autonomic nervous system and your health in general, so that you can become healthier.
How do you become with that conclusion that instead of curing or helping with the disease or prevent that disease, how do you come up with the conclusion that you learn more than anything to just to just diagnose it and find a medication for it?
Yeah. So what happened was that about 10, 11 years ago, my father died at 73. And then I thought that I don't want to die at this age, I want to live as long as I can, be as healthy as I can, live a full life as much as I can. And then I started reorienting myself and reading books about health, and I understood that the knowledge now was so much more about how we can stay healthy by exercise, by sleep, rest, diet, to avoid alcohol, uh, and all these different things and I was doing everything wrong. So I weighed, 40 pounds more than I do today. I did not exercise. I was having 2 or 3 glasses of wine every evening to wind down. I did not care about what I was eating, cutting down on sleep, working night shifts, So I was on my way on the same way that I could see that my patients were. So I had to
So
turn everything around.
so even you as a doctor, you were not doing the right things.
Yeah.
And
We
go ahead.
Yeah, that's because we didn't think at the time that it mattered so much. I think my impression throughout medical school was that if you did everything right, maybe you'll live for 2 or 3 years longer. But you needed to work for 2 or 3 years, doing exercise, caring much about what you were eating, sleeping more, and so on. So why bother? There was not much to gain from it. But now we know that there is so much to gain. There are decades, it's like 20 years longer you can live with a good lifestyle. You live
So
20 years longer than if you don't have the lifestyle. And this is also what I see as a doctor.
So, do you think you have gathered this information because of the books that you read and the time that you've been spending as a doctor in those 25s? Or do you think that the schools now they're teaching all this that you're learning and the doctors are more capable than what you learned back in the past?
Yeah, the doctors will still not learn this in medical school now. On the curriculum, it is not how to prevent disease. They learn very little about diet, very little about sleep, very little about exercise. So it's still focused on sick people and finding out how to treat it. That's for sure. So these things you have to find out yourself. So everything I know about this, I've done in my spare time. It's not something I've learned through my work. Of course, I've seen the results of not doing the right things. That is how I make my money. From seeing sick people, and then I can see how this poor lifestyle results in disease. It's probably you see as well.
So, so what happened is that you became a doctor. You were following you were following terrible bad habits and you were okay with that, and then your father died, and that's when you decided to start researching about what else can you do to live longer, to improve your life. You
Yeah.
noticed that you were overweight. You noticed that you were drinking a couple glasses of wine, and you were doing a couple things that weren't right in your lifestyle that were leading you to the same path that your dad actually lived.
Yeah,
Right?
that's right. That's right.
Okay.
That's just right. Because
Perfect.
because I was busy doing adventures. I was on my way on a sailing trip around the world with my family. I was in the Panama Canal. We were just about to cross the canal into the Pacific on a 4-year circumnavigation of the with the sailing, and then I got the message from my dad. So I was just spending all my time and energy on how to live an adventurous life. How to go out traveling, how to experience things. So that was my plan, and then I understood that okay, you have to care about your health too, otherwise you will not be able to live that way for a very long time.
Okay, so now tell me about that. You, as a doctor, once you start researching and getting all this knowledge, and you notice that you were overweight and you start losing weight, tell me some about that. How you started losing weight? What were the things that you started to do? And I bet those are the things that you teach in your book. I could be wrong.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the same thing I teach in the book, So I did everything wrong. I think the first thing I cut out was actually alcohol. So I understood that alcohol was the worst thing, very worst thing. And just cutting alcohol, that would cut my weight with maybe 10 pounds, just doing that. And yeah, I started to do a little bit on each area, eating a little bit better, sleeping a little bit more, and so on. I even used to smoke, at times. I cut that. So yeah, on all these different departments, I started doing small changes, and altogether that led to me getting a lot better. Started exercising, started doing push-ups, squats, sit-ups, running, rowing, on a rowing machine. So not too much, but enough to getting better shape. And I had been in excellent shape. I was on the national team in kayaking as a youth. So how I let myself, deteriorate that way was strange. But then I was so happy, as a 45-year-old, when I lost the weight and I got the muscles back, suddenly I could recognize myself from my youth. And when I show that, often in lectures, I show the pictures, from 10 years ago and from now, so people start laughing. You can't almost recognize me, from those 40 extra pounds and poor health.
So then, based on what you telling us, so it's not really that we age, that we need to gain weight and we need to become lethargic, tired, and without muscles. It is that we let ourselves go. So we
Yeah,
stay exercising and eating healthy and doing all those things that you're teaching. We can still have that young body.
yeah, absolutely. I'm more fit now than I was 10, 15, or 20 years ago. So you can absolutely get in a really good fit state and have more energy and better sleep and everything than you think. Aging, as you probably know, is more like inflammaging. It's inflammation. So when people say that it's terrible to get older, because they have trouble, that is because of the inflammation, not because of your years on your passport. So that's for sure.
Okay, let's talk about that. You talk about a little bit about that on your book about that inflammation. Why their body start attacking itself, why they start inflaming, and how can we stop that?
We can stop it by these measures, by eating food that is whole foods, stay away from ultra processed foods, getting the enough exercise to get your muscles and your fitness level up, get your VO2 max up. A lot of people have VO2 maxes of 30 and below, and then your body is inflamed, I would assume, from that low, poor fitness level. Getting enough sleep, all these different lifestyle will result in inflammation um, if you do it in the wrong way.
Okay, thank you. So now let's get a question for the notes that I have for you.
Mm.
So the what I'm very interested in that you can teach us, it's about fighting burnout and chronic fatigue.
Yeah.
How can we do that? What are the things that we need to do to have that energy every day and to feel healthy and to feel like doing things and avoid that burnout where you feel like doing nothing.
Yeah. And the important thing here is to track your heart rate variability, because your heart rate variability will show you if you're in the sympathetic stress mode or if you're in the parasympathetic restorative mode. So that is so important. And before you would end up in a burnout situation, these variables would have shown for a long time that you are overtaxing yourself. You're straining yourself too much compared to your capabilities. So,
Can
and then of course, if you have a low capability, if you have a poor fitness levels, if you have inflamed body, you can tolerate less of a strain, you know. But even if you are very fit, you know, and but you are straining yourself too much and sleeping very little, you can also end up in a fatigue situation. So it's kind of your capacity versus the strain that's in this imbalance, and this you would be able to see in your heart rate variability.
and that's why it's important for those kind of device that can help you track your heart rate all the time and know where you are.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
for our audience who don't know what are the parasympathetic and the sympathetic system, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the basis of our function in our brain and in our nervous system, in our bodies, that is the autonomic nervous system. The system that works even if you're sleeping, even if you're unconscious. This will keep you alive. And we share it with all vertebrates. All mammals have the same system in their bodies. And we often forget that to take that into consideration. We often think too much about our thinking brain, our prefrontal cortex, and our intellectual brain, you know. But below that, there is an autonomic nervous system, and it's in two parts. It's the activating sympathetic part that gets the heartbeat up, that increases the blood sugar, and it makes us ready for action, either to hunt for something that we want or to flee away from or fight something that we don't want. So that is the activating system that will keep a heartbeat very steady and fast to mobilize us. But we can't be in that state all the time. So the body has a parasympathetic nervous system that will calm us down and that will make sure that we restore and recuperate, that we recover after the strain. And when we are in the parasympathetic mode that we are made evolutionary to be in most of the time, most of the day and night, then when we breathe in, the heart rate will go up a little bit. And when we breathe out and there is less oxygen in the lungs, the heart rate will go down a little bit to save some energy while it can, you know. So there will be a variation between heartbeats. Go up when we breathe in, go down when we breathe out. And this variation in between heartbeats is what the wearables can pick up.
Mhm.
So they will give you a measure of your stress in the moment and then, of course, throughout the day and night. So they can see if your stress level is sustainable and compatible with a good health. So that's the important thing. So that is how I can say that this is a way to avoid getting into burnout situation, because the wearables will tell you that you are straining yourself too much. You are not relaxing enough. You're not sleeping enough. This is not good for you.
So if we are under stress and our heart rate is very high, we are in the sympathetic system. What can we do to to make our heart rate lower?
Mm. So then you need the multidimensional approach to it. You know, like I talked about, that you must make sure that you get better sleep. You must make sure that you rest more also during the day. You can do things like breath work, you know, breathing exercises to calm yourself down. You can also use cold water immersion. You can use cold showers, the cold plunges. This is also very, very effective. And you can make sure that you eat food that is not creating inflammation in your body. And of course, you can also exercise to be more capable, to have a stronger body, to have better mitochondria, better cells in your body. That will make your capacity larger, so to speak. And you can, of course, avoid alcohol, because alcohol is a worst stressor. According to Whoop, I have a Whoop band on my right wrist. They say that, they gather information from their users, and they say that alcohol is by far the worst stressor for your body. And that was, the opposite of what I thought, because I thought that, okay, it's good to relax, with alcohol. And when you get the wearables, you see that is not right.
Um, I I personally don't drink because I learned how terrible alcohol it is for you, for your body, for your mind, for everything. Doesn't let your body recover. A few years ago, I went to vacation and visit one of my family. Uh, visit a one of my relates, and we went to this beautiful park where you can find it's a hot spring. It's beautiful. This is down in Mexico, and we decided to stop and buy some. We call it pulque, and it's alcohol from agave.
Mm. Mm.
And we went, we drank. I drank probably like a liter, a little bit over that. It's not pure alcohol. It's come from agave, so you can.
Mm.
It's sweet. It's nice, and so on. And the next day, I wake up with a hangover. It was the. I mean, I'm not kidding, but I was thinking all the time, how do people do when they drink? How they can handle this? And the worst thing was that I didn't enjoy my vacation because I didn't recuperate for drinking that for a whole week, a complete
Yeah.
week. And that's because I don't
Yeah.
drink. I
Yeah.
mean, people who drink, they build tolerance, so they're used
Yeah.
to it. Um,
Yeah.
Me, because I don't drink, I feel it.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I wonder how people can live like this. I mean, this is
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah. They underperform all the time. So you're right that if you drink regularly, you will have a more capacity to, convert alcohol into acetaldehyde. You will have more of the enzyme, as alcohol dehydrogenase. Oh, it's a difficult name to say. So they will tolerate it a bit better, but not good, So they will still be very much affected by it, There are just few people who can tolerate alcohol quite well. Most people, when they start using the wearables, are shocked by what they see from their watches when they see the effect of alcohol, and they cut down almost immediately to cut down the unnecessary drinks, So they may, still be drinking, in weddings or when they meet their friends, on occasions, but they would skip those glasses where you could just as well have a cup of tea or water, or a soft drink, or something else. So alcohol is really the first thing I would cut out. If I don't feel well, or if you have any kind of disease, you need to cut down on alcohol.
Tell me what is the device that you recommend and what settings they should have it for them to find out the effects of alcohol in their body.
Yeah, the by far best device is the Garmin watches. They are like a league of its own, I would say. But you also can use Aura rings, or you can use Whoop bands, and probably Apple Watch to some extent. I know that Samsung is coming with a new Galaxy ring and the new Galaxy watches that are supposed to be a step up, so that they may be competing with Garmin, by the end of the summer, maybe. But surely the Garmin is the best option. I would think that the cheapest ones you would get for like $150. Of course, you can even buy it secondhand, probably. So from $150 and upwards, of course, the more expensive, the better watches also. So that is what I would recommend. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And it's easy to find out the settings for um, for how alcohol is affecting your body and how it's
Yeah,
stressing you?
you will see it. Yeah, you will see it. So they have a kind of a body battery system. So you will see that your body battery, as a measure of your capacity, physiological capacity, will be very low on the morning after drinking. Maybe in a normal day, for example, you may have 80. The scale goes from 0 to 100. You may have 80 in body battery. And on a night after 3 4 drinks, you may find that you have like 30 or 40, and you will feel it, and you will see it, and you will see the graphs, like really in your face, in the morning.
Nice.
So
So
yeah.
sorry for my ignorance. I never use a device. So the watch or the Garmin watch, yeah, it's it measures just like a battery. So if I notice that you full recover, it's gonna give you 100%. If I notice
Yeah.
that you not recover because alcohol is intervening with the recovery, so then it's gonna tell you you're 30% today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Interesting.
That's
That's
Garmin system. Yeah.
wow. That's it seems like a
Mhm.
fun device. I'm gonna look into it.
Yeah, it is fun. It is fun. So a lot of people wonder, will it not just stress, but I think that more people find out that it's fun. It's like a game, where your own life and health is at stake. So most people think of this maybe as a game, that is interesting, because you get to learn so much more about how your body works, So you have having a kind of conversation with your body, so you understand more that what will strain you and what is good for you, what is bad for you. You learn so much more from that.
Nice. I was reading your book. By the way, everybody, I think
Mm?
this book it's a very good book. I recommend you buy your get it. It's called the Pulse Cure by Torkil Faero. I really recommend them.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk a little bit more about that in a minute. I read that you have 12 tips for successfully change your bad habits. Can you
Hmm.
talk a little bit about that? You don't have to give us all the tips, but you can just give us whatever you think are the best that people
Yeah.
can start
Yeah.
using.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly if I had in the book, right now, but the tips would be to make sure that you get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. To get that, you may have to wind down in the evening. Make sure that your sleeping room, bedroom is as dark as possible. If it doesn't get really dark, you need to have like a sleep mask on, that is quiet and that is quite cold or cool. Not so you're freezing, but the cooler, the better. And that is for sleep. And of course, avoid alcohol, and also avoid caffeine or coffee and caffeinated drinks from after, noon, so that to make sure that you sleep better. I would say that you need to exercise, maybe say at least 3 times a half hour every week.
Let me
That
ask you
could
a
be
question
easy jogging.
before we go to the exercise. I think I'm used to it, or my body cools down faster. I don't know why, but I cover myself every time, and it's very um, uncommon that I sleep uncovered because even though it's hot, what would you
Mhm.
recommend for me as an example that I don't like my room too cool because I feel it? What would be a recommendation?
I I think that when you see the difference in your recovery, you may be motivated to have it a bit colder. And you may do it one step at a time. I'm not sure if you have aircon or whatever, but that you can start getting just 1 degree or 2 degrees cooler. And when you see the effect on your body, then it's easier to be motivated to have it a little bit cooler,
Okay,
because the effect is quite strong. The effect is quite strong.
I have a challenge now. What do you think is the recommended temperature?
It's between 15 and 18 degrees centigrades. I'm not exactly sure what that would be in Fahrenheit. I think it would be between maybe 55 and 60. Does that sound really cold, or?
Doesn't
Um,
sound very cold. It sounds.
hmm.
I will wear
so,
a
so
jacket if I get out. but it sounds like something that we can handle. It doesn't sound like
Yeah.
freezing. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
it's cool. It's not cold, it's cool.
yeah.
It's not cold, I would say.
Okay,
And you
okay,
could probably learn to tolerate it, but you're from Mexico, maybe that's part of it.
yeah. Okay, so let's continue. Second was exercise.
Yeah. I would do some strength exercise every day. And if you do only push-ups and squats, that could be enough. There's a lot of muscles involved in both push-ups and squats, and you would have covered, so many muscles. And if you do that, maybe for 2 minutes, that's what I did. I did it for like 2 minutes every day. And that gave me, more or less my old shape in my body back. So you don't really need to go to the gym and work out very hard, but you need to do something. You probably know, more about this than me, but squat and push-ups, you get quite far with just those two, and you can probably add sit-ups as well, and then you would have a better, stomach and abdominal muscles and so on. So if you do that, a couple of minutes every day and maybe work out more once a week, for an hour, that would be fine. Because muscles are very important, both for the strength in itself, but also because muscles, when you use them, they make a brain-derived neurotropic factor, which will improve the connections in your brain. So the more you use your muscles, the better the connections in your brain. Um, and then I would do maybe for endurance training, I would do maybe 3 times a week to go jogging or gogging, or you're walking and running at the same time, um, like half and half running, half and half walking. That could be good if you're not fit from before. But I would that would be enough, to get the most out of exercise. If you do that and spend then 2 hours a week investing in your health, you will get years back, and also healthy years. So that would be important for exercise. What do you think about those advice? You're like,
I mean, I completely agree with everything you say. I personally, I had something. My story is a little different than yours, but I started as a personal trainer, but it was very superficial. It was exercising and diet, and then I fall into depression. I didn't lose my dad. I just had a breakup, and that was enough for me to completely change my life. Then I noticed that the most of us here in Earth we suffer, and the people really need help, and they really need to change their life. And I noticed that the first person that needed to change his life, it was myself. And then I started making a big research, reading a lot of books about different doctors and studies and so on. And then I noticed that many of the things that we've been taught is leading us to a bad health. And then I make the same conclusion than you. And I think a lot of the things that you teaching, I learn a lot of that because of other doctors like you. And something that I learned from you that I find very exciting and trying from you is sleeping with temperature that should be cool. And another thing is using that smartwatch. I mean, that smartwatch is like checking your battery. We just wake up and we go. Doesn't matter how we feel, but checking where you are to see what are the things that are affecting you. Probably because you are in the wrong food, or because you over exercise, or maybe because you don't exercise enough, or maybe because you don't sleep enough, or because you sleep with the heater too high, or whatever it is. The little device is gonna actually tell you. But anyway, all those things I learned. I learned to summarize everything. I learned that your state of mind is the first thing. You have to learn how to deal with the stress. That it's okay to be stressed, but you need to learn how to deal with it, and you need to be
yeah,
in peace. And the only control that you have And I think you mentioned this in your book, is the decisions that you make and the things that you are going to do. You can't decide for anybody else. Um, so when you have that peace of mind, I'm I'm a big follower of God, so my whole faith is in there. So I make sure that my spiritual growth is there. The second thing I learned is your family, your health. You have to eat the right foods, and the right foods is, like you mentioned, all those processed food that need to be get out. Everything that is whole, fresh, organic. If you can plant it in your house, if you can get it from your house and your backyard, the best thing. Of course, many of us, we don't have that privilege, so we need to buy it. But the less processed, the best. Then I find out there are some healthy foods that even though they're healthy, they might inflame you, and you need to learn which ones are those so you don't eat them,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
continue with those whole foods. And then another thing, which that's where I specialize in, it's exercising. I mean, for your body to stay healthy, the body adapts, which also you mentioned this in your book. Your body adapts to the resistance that you put in your body into it. So if you sedentary, if you don't, you just grab the control and watch TV, and you don't get up to do things and things like that. So then your body's gonna accustom to that. You mentioned that you lose it because you're not using it.
Yeah.
Um, and but the opposite is also true. So if you want to have strong muscles, if you want to have a heart that delivers enough oxygen, blood, nutrients, and so on, you need to make it work hard. So when you're resting, it's doing its work as its whole potential instead of just doing whatever they can because you're not working it. So it's accustomed to the new resistance that you're giving it.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I completely agree on everything that you're saying, and even if I don't agree with it, there is a lot of things that I'm learning from you that I didn't even
Mm.
know.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Yeah, and the good thing is that this is measurable in the heart rate, and and that is more motivating to do the hard choices, because you know that everybody knows what to do, what they should do, at least most of it. But it's hard to do it, and when you see the result on your wearables, that is so much more motivating because you can see it before you feel it. It can take a long time to feel better, but then you can see the small changes on your wearable. That's more motivating for people.
And that's another thing that I'm learning right here with you. For example, our members, Custom Body Fitness, one of the things that we do body composition. So we measure their fat levels and muscle levels. We do the calipers and we measure the fat. And many of our members, when we do that, and we do that every 6 weeks, so they love to see the numbers. I mean, they love to see, wow, all these things that I'm doing right is helping me lose this much fat and helping me add all this muscle. And when they don't get the results, they know why. Oh, yeah, having that extra glass of wine, or me not behaving in my vacation, so on, and make me gain weight. And I didn't even, because I didn't came to exercise or whatever, I didn't gain that muscle. They love watching that and they see the results. So the same exactly what you're talking with the watch, seeing the results and motivate us to continue doing those small things. Like you said, we know what to do, but we don't do it because we don't see the results. But
Yeah.
if we start seeing the results every day, like spending our money, right? We check our bank account, how much I spend, how much
Yeah.
I have coming in. You see the numbers. You know that you need to pay
Yeah.
whatever you need, all your bills and so on. So then you limit your expenses. If you need it, if you're gonna invest or whatever, invest or anything you're gonna do, you can see it. You can see that investment giving you that money. You can see whatever you buy taking money away from you because you can see it on your account. The same with those watches.
Yeah.
and
So
that's what
they make,
is
yeah, yeah. They make you
interesting.
kind of a body budget, so that you can see what builds you up and what takes you down. So I'm talking in the book also about a body budget that you have to get in balance. So and it has been such a huge success in Norway. The book has been on the bestseller list for a year and a half, and because so many people find that it's so useful, and it's been translated or in the process of being translated to 8 languages. So it's just been a tremendous success. It's such an interesting year and a half, since the book came out. So
I'm glad. I'm very happy. Um, what tell us a couple of topics that we can learn, or the things that we can learn more on your book, the pulse, the cure, the
yeah, yeah, it's more or less what you have been talking about. I'm talking about like a journey, like that. It's kind of an expedition. I'm calling it because it will be hard, and an expedition you need to be well prepared. So there's a lot of theory in the first half of the book, how the immune system works, how muscles work, what is to the ultra processed food and so on. The theory that you need to know before you start the practical expedition where you go out and try to fix your sleep first, because that's the most important thing to get more power. When you're sleeping well, you have more willpower to do the next stages of this expedition. And then you have exercise, you have diet. And also in diet, you haven't been talking about that, but intermittent fasting in general, and having a limited window every day where you eat, I advise people to eat maybe 8 hours a day and be fasting 16 hours a day. That is so important for your intestinal system that your stomach, your intestinal system gets enough downtime to recuperate after the digestion of the day. So that is also an aspect of it's not only important what you eat, but also when you eat, and particularly that you don't eat late in the evening, that you stop eating maybe 3 or 4 hours before you go to bed. That is quite important, I think. And then what more is also what I call active rest. That is breathing exercises, using cold therapy, and so on. So these are the stages of the book. So it's kind of very basic, free things. That's also the most important thing, that everything that keeps you healthy is free. You don't. It's only after you get sick, that things get expensive. Particularly in the U.S. In Norway, the healthcare system is free. So it doesn't matter so much money wise, but but that is also the problem, that is free because there's no commercial pressure, behind it. So there's no money to be made from one person resting or sleeping. So as long as you are awake and consuming, there's money to make from us. But these things like sunshine, like meditation, breathing exercises, clean food, drinking water, stop drinking alcohol, all this costs nothing, so it's available to everybody, even the ones with little money. So that is a good thing. And the good thing also about these wearables is that they put the power of your health, the control of your health, from the doctor, from the healthcare system, and literally into your own hands, so you get control of your health. So that's also a very important aspect of the book. Yeah.
that's very powerful. And honestly, it's very powerful that you're saying that everything is free, that we have access to all that for free, and if we get sick, then we have to spend money. I mean,
Yeah.
it's such a completely opposite. And then
Yeah.
another thing that I didn't, I mean, I make that conclusion, but I can put it in words like you just did. It's like you take the power of the doctor and you put it in yourself. I mean, there is not only the power, but also the responsibility, because
Yeah.
is you have you put your health on your hands and you take care of it, instead of saying the doctor, take care of my diabetes, take care of my cancer, take care of this,
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
know it can be avoided.
yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
Because the medicines that we have, to treat those diseases, that they're not perfect. They're not curing you. So that is why it's important to take responsibility of your own health yourself, and just not, as you say, just put it over to the doctor. It's not the very. And the problem is that there's too much money to be made from sick people. As doctors, at least 90% of us work. We get our money from sick people. And there's kind of a system that is the solution to a problem tends to keep the problem alive. That is kind of a natural way for systems to work. And that is why the healthcare system is not solving the problem. It's just keeping the fire alive. It's keeping people sick in some way, not deliberate, but that's the effect of it.
Yeah, yeah. I completely understand what you say. Um, Torko, I think this interview it's amazing. I like everything you say, especially the last part. I think you giving power to the people. With this knowledge, you're giving a lot of power to them, and I
Yeah.
really acknowledge you for that, because you want people to be healthy. You want people to understand they do have the power in their hands, instead of spending money with any doctor. Like, you just come and give me a medicine for me to take care of this. You tell them exactly how to stop coming and see you by reading your book and taking
Yeah.
control of their health. Thank you so much, Torko, for
Mhm.
doing that. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for letting me talk to your audience about it. So I'm very happy about that. And if they want to know more, I have a website, a social website called thepulsecure.com. There you can see a webinar. I have a blog there. So there's more information there to find out. And also the book, and that a lot of people don't like to read so much, but it's also an audiobook in an Audible. So it's possible to get them to listen to, just like you listen to the podcast also. So you can
Perfect.
get it on your iPhone, and in the book app on iPhone also. So.
Good. Everybody, you hear that? The book is called The Pulse Cure. I really recommend it. Look for it. Where can we find you, Torko? Do
On
you have
on Instagram, I'm on Dr. Torkil, like Dr. Torkil, Dr. Torkil on Instagram. Yeah.
Instagram? Do you have Facebook,
Yeah,
YouTube,
also on
anything else?
Facebook. Yeah, on Facebook, I'm also Dr. Torkil. Yeah. I'm not
Perfect.
yet on YouTube, so but I'm also on lots of other podcasts also. So if they look me up in the podcast, so they can, and all the podcasts, I try to tell a little bit different things, so it's not just repeating exactly the same all the time. So
Yeah, depends on the host as well, what kind of questions he's asked for you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So and then I like, that it's depending on the host, so that I just don't say exactly the same. Yeah. So that it's been very great to be talking to you.
Thank you. Um, Please, everybody, I'm going to share with you all the links of the Instagram, Facebook, and the website, and where you can get the book. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you,
Mm,
Turko, for being with us and for all the great
mm,
information and for revealing yourself to the people and being completely transparent with them. I really appreciate
mm,
it. Thank you.
mm. Thank you, and thank you for your good work as well, keeping people fit and healthy.
So there you have it. I hope you liked the interview. I hope you got a lot of information like I got. I learned a lot from Dr. Torkil Faero, and I am gonna get the book and read the whole thing. I hope you get the book as well. We're gonna link all the links where you can find Dr. Torkil Faero, and where you can also buy the book. I really recommend once again that you buy the book. It's a great book. With the interview I can conclude that. I'm also gonna read it and probably make another episode about the book once I finish reading it. Hopefully, you like everything that he talks about and you put everything into practice. Remember, put that responsibility and the control of your health under your hands so you can avoid disease and burnouts and so on. So, with that, I'm going to finish this episode. And please share this with people who needs to listen to this message. And stay close to God, mentally and physically healthy. And we're going to tune in the next episode.